How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Play Then Paint. Today we're taking a look at Detroit Become Human, and then we're going over to the easel to paint our own program busting android. So let's get into it. I'm going to preface this video by saying that all the footage is from the first hour or so. I know it's a pretty old game, but it's ripe for spoilers, so if you haven't played it yet, first off I recommend you do. It's an exceptional piece of storytelling, and secondly I won't be going too far into spoiler territory. This game was recommended to me by a friend. We were discussing some of the heartbreaking choices we had to make in Telltale's The Walking Dead and how they'd stuck with us to this day, and he said that Detroit Become Human held a similar corner of his mind hostage. And after I loaded up the game and was greeted with this options screen, which is just mental, more on that later, I was thrust into a hostage situation. I am way underqualified for this. No one should ever put me in charge of hostage situations. But we were introduced to Connor, one of the protagonists, along with Kara and Marcus. And Connor's a special kind of police android. So I went about getting my bearings, analysed some evidence, and decided to try my luck at saving a life, only to proceed in throwing myself off a building. Like I said, no one should ever put me in charge of situations like this. But after my early demise, we get to grips with our other characters. Kara, who's a sort of service droid, I think. I spent like 10 minutes cleaning up after this piece of shit, so I'm guessing she's like a housemaid or something. And Marcus, who performs a similar role, but with a much kinder owner, that guy from Alien. We get a feel from the world from both characters' perspectives. Unemployment is through the roof thanks to androids. Art has lost its soul too. It's all a bit close to home. Obviously, as an artist myself, I have concerns over AI and stuff, but if they ever get opposable thumbs, I am done for. But all is not as it seems with our heroes. Again, avoiding spoilers, we soon find that we can break our programming and even feel human emotions. And this is where the game really kicks off. Visually, it's stunning. I only have one gripe really, and that's the depth of field. Detroit Become Human has some seriously aggressive doff, like even on the low setting it was making my eyes go funky. But aside from that, I hope the mocap team gets a raise, because the facial capture work here is phenomenal. The subtle emotions, those little micro expressions, it's next level. I can't help but wonder if it was intentional as well, like especially for the androids to have such expressive faces. It pulls you in and makes you forget they're synthetic, you start sort of seeing them as human. The thing is, the human brain is just exceptional at picking up emotions, it's hardwired for it, and while like every video game we sometimes go skating down uncanny valley, the work here in realising these emotions, all those little subtle twists of the mouth and all those little micro movements of the eye, it just breathes so much life into the characters that you can't help but get invested in them. Paired with a strong writing and a myriad of choices, seriously, like you get a flowchart at the end of every section and there's so many options, it's unreal. I'm not sure if they've got like a massive impact on the outcome of the game. I don't know for certain, but what I do know is that a few bad choices can lead to one of the main characters' deaths. I'm not ashamed to admit that I rolled back my save after that particular clusterfuck. Finally, that brings me to this menu screen. It's just the most unnerving menu screen I have ever come across. It's just an android, her eyes boring into your soul. And again with that incredible face capture. She talks to you, asks you questions. It's just unnerving. It's the only word I can use, really. It's the only thing that comes to mind. It puts you on edge, and I know exactly why the devs have put it there. The story revolves around identity. What does it mean to be human? Is it the soul? What is a soul? It's not exactly something you can define. By interacting with the android at the menu screen, and you do interact with her, you're interacting with lines of code, a program mimicking emotion, and I'll be damned if I didn't feel like I was interacting with someone rather than something. Just some food for thought, but in this age of AI psychosis, I'd argue it's a pretty fucking pertinent thought. Well, I've dug out all my Philip K. Dick novels for a reread, and we're ready to head to the easel with a hearty dose of inspiration and some creeping sort of uneasy thoughts scratching at the back of my mind. So I'm thinking, let's paint our own android, complete with red ring of free will. Sorry, I was getting Xbox 360 flashbacks there. And to keep that idea of fabricated equipment running through the painting, let's paint it on an aluminium panel, or for my friends overseas, aluminum, and we'll leave a few chunks of the aluminium showing through to the portrait, as if we're seeing some of like the metal below the hologram's skin. I'm starting the thumbnail on a piece of paper. It's nothing fancy, just a quick sketch that's more about where I'm going to sit the portrait on the panel. I've decided on a profile portrait, which is artsy speak for a side view, just so we can get that red ring in all its glory. And now I'm sketching the facial features, just so I've got an idea of what to place down when I come to draw it on the panel. Drawing on aluminium is a tricky thing. There's no shading or anything like that, just a line drawing, so I don't need to go overboard on the thumbnail. And this is what I ended up with. It's a collection of features and a general idea of what to do. So let's get on the panel in something that resembles a human head. Okay, the panel's ready to go. Now to the palette. We want a broad range of skin tones. There may be androids, but they're as lifelike as you or me. So we're going with white, cadmium red, yellow ochre, ultramarine, and burnt umber. We're going to mix a lot of colours, but we're going to try and keep the palette nice and tight. We don't want to overdo it tone-wise. We want a sense of continuity throughout the portrait. So we'll mix a base skin tone and then mix out from there, going dark and then adding white as we go up the value scale. We'll also take a little bit of our skin tone and add some cadmium red for like a blush, and then we'll do the same with some ultramarine, and that'll give us a nice cool tone. Okay, now that's all done. Let's get to some painting. I'm starting with the eye. It's where I always start, and I'm putting in just a line of our dark skin tone mixed with a touch of ultramarine, mainly so when I paint the white of the eye, I can drag some of it down to add a sort of overhang. Once that's in, I'm going to start working out from the eye. The eye socket is mostly in shadow, so I've blocked in the iris and pupil with a dark brown. And I've picked out some highlights with a bit of yellow ochre and some white. Today's tip. Try to keep those highlights in the eye just a little bit dull. If they're too bright, it looks a weird, it looks kind of off. A good rule of thumb is to make the catch lights the same colour and value as the white of the eye. That way they're not too bright and they don't stand out too much. So painting on aluminium it's just something else. Seriously, if you're just starting out, stick to canvas while you get the hang of things. Because with aluminium, you have to sort of micro layer. The surface is so smooth, the brush takes off the paint as much as it puts it on. So you just sort of have to lay down a thin layer, and then another layer on top, and then another layer on top of that, and you slowly build up that opacity. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm adding up those layers until we get a level of thickness that means we can barely see the aluminium below. I'm putting some of our light blue mix below the eye. One of the best things about painting eyes is all those little nuances of colour. A little purple, a little blue, a little pink. It's all going on around the eye. Now that's all in, we can start working out to the cheeks and the nose. When it comes to painting highlights, try to sort of build up to them, making the skin tone lighter and lighter as you reach the brightest skin tone. And that brightest skin tone, that'll be your highlight. Never really use pure white if you can help it. It looks kind of weird. Kind of makes the portrait look a bit plasticky, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing for an Android. Building the curve of the cheekbone, we're adding a little bit of cadmium red to our shadow tone, just to add a bit of blush. Obviously, if you're painting someone who's like wearing makeup, you want to add a bit more red, maybe a lighter tone, more pink to account for that makeup. I'm putting in the dark shadow in the crease between the nostril and the cheek. Then we can blend it out to help us get that gradient as we paint the rest of the nostril in. When we paint the nostril, if we put in a really dark tone to describe the hole, and then drag it downwards, it helps to give us that illusion of depth, as if the skin is disappearing up the nose, which is what it kind of does. Now we can start working on the mouth. I'm painting all the skin around it, so we can blend the lips into the flesh, and we won't end up with a harsh line where lip meets skin. The top lip is nearly always in shadow, unless you're sort of lit from below, so it's usually going to be a lot darker than the bottom lip. And I'm using some of the shadow tone with a bit of cadmium red to give us that lip colour. When we brighten it up for the bottom lip, we'll just add some white to it. With all the features in, we can start working on getting the cheek in. We want a gradient from dark to light as the face curves into the laugh line. I'm going to be building up to the ring light so we can sort of blend the light into the temple. Not too much, but just so it's not so stark. We're just using pure cadmium red for the light, and then I'll add in some pure white to make it look like it's kind of lit up. Now we can paint the eyebrow. I put some mid-tone skin below where the eyebrow sits. We'll blend our eyebrow colour into that. And the eyebrow colour is just shadow tone mixed with ultramarine. It looks a little more natural than just a block of dark paint. And with all hair, eyebrows included, painting in the direction which the hair goes is most of the battle already won. So with eyebrows, we go from straight up, as if we're painting a line from chin to scalp, and then we curve it to follow the eye socket around. With pretty much all the tricky bits in, we can start to join it all together. Super dark under the chin, following the curve of the jaw, and then we can start on the ear and get the neck in, and that'll be it for all the skin tone. I'm starting to paint the hair, and I've turned the panel on its side. It's all about direction, and it's easier to turn the panel around than it is to twist my arm in sort of weird, unnatural ways. We'll do the first layer of dark ultramarine, and then mix that with burnt umber for the second layer. Now we have a block of dark hair, we'll add all the little definition in with a lighter ultramarine, and this is where the hair really starts to come sort of to life. Again, direction is everything. We're going from the scalp and then outwards. And finally, we'll put in his clothing. We're keeping this nice and loose, and even some parts of it unpainted, and it helps draw the focus to the portrait. With it all in, all that's left to do is sign it. And that's the finished piece, and I'll be honest guys, I can't wait to go back to canvas for next week's video. Thanks for watching guys, and if you enjoyed this mashup of pixels and paint, consider subscribing and let me know what I should play then paint next in the comments below. Until next time, farewell.